We're talking about trust. Again, we're talking character and competence. It's, do people believe that you mean well, and do you say the hard things with honesty and integrity? And do you know your stuff, and do you show up in the same way every time? All of that comes down to that everything moves fast when you have trust.
Welcome to Lead Like a Girl, where we are empowering everyday women through our stories. I'm your host, Jessica Smith, and I began this journey by sharing my life story. Now, I've joined forces with my longtime friends, Jamie and Corlin, to keep this party going. We met many years ago as young sales girls in our 20s, driven and quickly rising to the top of our industry. As the years went on, life happened, and we all found ourselves in new companies and completely different industries, still striving for success in it all. Career, family, faith, fun. Now, it wasn't easy, but we never stopped moving. Get ready for our real conversations, inspiring stories, and our big life lessons as we share it all. The good, the bad, and the funny. Welcome to Lead Like a Girl.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Lead Like a Girl. This is Corlin. We've been told that people cannot tell my voice from Jamie's, but this voice is Corlin. I'm also with Jamie, and I'm with Jessica, and we are so happy to be here. It's a December day. It's a little chilly for all of us, but this is going to be a hot topic. We're talking about trust. So, I think trust is something that literally comes into play when we're talking in the workplace with, almost everything. It impacts your workload, your stress level, your team, your relationships, literally everything. I feel like it's one of those things that you don't realize whether you have trust or you didn't until it's absolutely gone. Either somebody who doesn't trust you, or you don't trust them, and it impacts your entire connection with that person. And so I think people in general, women specifically in leadership, we are always navigating trust, trying to earn it from our peers and our coworkers, rebuilding it, trying to extend trust. And sometimes it's consistent, sometimes it's not. So we're going to talk about all things trust. I've been working on putting together a module for my own personal company on how we can be more trustworthy and extend trust and learn how to create our own trust. And so we're diving into that today, just how trust works, why it matters more than we think, and how to build it in a really simple, kind of old school way. We are professional trust builders from our deep roots in our early career. So let's just jump in and we'll just go for it.
Yes.
Trust, ladies. We're just going to hop into it. Tell me about a story where trust came into play for you, when somebody either had trust or they didn't, and how did it navigate your
So, of course, when I hear the word trust, I think of trust and understand.
I was like, should I answer that? I knew that.
Wow. That was too much of a delay.
That was a little bit of a pause right there.
But I think that really is definitely where it starts in all the relationships. And I can think back to a time where I had a leader, and, listen, I like and trust everyone until you give me a reason not to. That's how my brain works.
Fair.
So, and especially when it comes to leadership, I'm here to be led and hopes that there's a partnership where you're helping me grow and develop. So it is just so important to me. And I always think about it where when someone says something and I'm like, okay, that just didn't sound right. That didn't feel right. And I have this box, and this is new relationship. I don't put people in boxes. I put things in people's boxes. So everyone has
I got my visual.
I know.
And
wait, what's in my box?
Right. All good things. All good. And I remember I had this leader, and it was the first experience where she had something put in her box. I'm like, that didn't feel good. That didn't sound right. That's going to go in your bullshit box.
I don't trust you box.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
yep.
Yeah. And so I'd probably say it was a good, 3 or 4 months later where something else came up, and she said one thing and she did another. And I'm like, that didn't feel good. But I don't just write people off because, listen, there's error where no one's perfect, right? There's just human error. And I think sometimes we miss things and all of that. But it just kept happening and in different forms. And when there's these boxes, and at the top, it's like, you are a liar. I cannot trust you. I cannot depend. Like, when you get to that point, and this may not be the right, but we got to that point. And for me, it's just so hard. And is there someone that I've trusted and then I didn't trust and can trust again?
It's hard to build it back if you lose it.
Yeah.
It is. And so I hold myself to those same standards too, and sometimes I'm too honest or too upfront, but I just do my best to not, I just try to keep the honesty and integrity because trust is so important to me, and especially in a professional setting, and especially when it comes to leadership. To me, the secret sauce to leadership starts with trust. So there's a long answer to your short question.
No, that's a good answer. That's a good answer. I was thinking the same, I was kind of thinking about times when I've had employers, like when you're negotiating a new commission plan or things like that, where it's like, they're essentially saying to you, just trust me, like this is going to be good for you. You might not see it, but I believe in you and that sort of thing. But I was actually thinking about situations, my position that I'm in now, I've only been there, not even 2 years, a year and a half. And it's one of those positions where I have clients that I'm their new district sales manager. So these people are like, I don't know you, and I'm going to pay you $1 million for this project. And I don't know you. It's been and I think we're probably going to get into this pretty heavily, but like just the act of getting them to trust me. And I know specifically about a situation where, and it's happened a few times now, where there's been a problem, and it's not necessarily something that I did, but I'm the manager, and it's not necessarily something I could fix because it's kind of like in someone else's hands. But what showed me that they trusted me was they'll like CC me in on an email, just because they're like, Jamie, I just want you to know that I'm saying this. Or they'll say, hey, and I'm not kidding, I've gotten a text message saying, Jamie, I just need you to jump in. And they'll say, like, the only reason I'm doing this is because I know you're going to go like rattle some cages. Like, I know you're going to go walk down the hall and like talk to these people. So, and I always say, like, I'm advocating for you. I'm advocating for my team, but I'm advocating for you. So it's like just been a whole, 15, 18-month thing of like the small little, what do you call it? Like the deposits, like making all these small little deposits to hope that they feel like they can trust me. So it's like, and then you kind of get that inclination of like, okay, now I get it. Like I see that they do trust that I am going to do what's going to be best for them. My boss said, or bosses or, managers have said, just trust me. It's going to work out. It's like, okay, I feel the same. Yeah.
And it's hard to do when you're in sales, by the way, because everybody just assumes that you lie and that you can't be trusted.
It's just about the sale, right? That's all it is. And I always say, the thing I always say is like, I have accounts. So I'm like, guys, I got to get another sale from the same guy, right? So you can't just, it's not a one and done. It's a different sort of thing. It's you. Yeah.
Right. Two things that made me think of is one is first, when you're talking about people saying, hey, trust me on this, I feel like there's a little bit of a red flag that comes up for me that if you have to tell me to trust you, like that puts you two steps back. And I'm not going to say I'm not going to trust you, but if you have to tell me to trust you, I'm leaning in a little bit deeper on that one to start with.
Start sentences. I had a guy that was on my team, and we had to really work on this. He would always start his sentences with, let me just be honest with you.
And oh, yes. That's kind of a red flag.
That was a habit I had to break myself in because I was trying to be genuine and nice. Like, let me just be straight with you.
Were you not honest before? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
I said, that implies that I'm normally not, but I'm going to be honest with you. Let me just be honest. I'm like, stop.
And I think you can say that in a way that doesn't negate the fact that you maybe, that you could say, you could set it up in a way that is like, I'm going to just lay the facts out here for you, or I'm going to be
frank.
bold. I'm going to be
Yes.
frank. You don't have to bring honesty and integrity into the situation. Like, pick a different word.
Absolutely. I love it. Let me just be straight up with you.
Yeah. The second thing, Jamie, that you made me think of is that I feel like the thing that you're talking about is that when you're in the process of when you have to build trust or you don't have trust, the speed at which you can do business and the speed at which you can make decisions is slows up or speeds down relative the amount of trust that you have. You guys agree with this?
Yes.
That if you're working on a team and everybody trusts you, I know that you can do what you say you can do. I trust that you have the skills and the capabilities. We can move fast because we can all, yep. But if there's doubt, if there is a fear that you're not going to be able to do it, and I need to inspect the details, then it tends to slow down the process. And so I think in these, especially when you're talking collaboration with highly effective teams and a managerial standpoint, trust is so important in a team.
Well, and I've learned that when you're in a team that maybe they're a little bit more established, the company's more established, and just being a new person in this role, I would often defer to that team and say, look, I might be new, but my team is not new. They're veteran. They know this. They've been at this for 20 years. And just kind of like utilize the trustworthiness or the knowledge or the expertise of the people who are working with me to kind of establish that pseudo trust, I guess, or maybe just the confidence might be a better word for that. The confidence and the ability. Yeah.
This also goes back to, and this is fresh in my head because this conversation came up in my panel interview this week with a company, and we started talking about, building new teams and, scaling the business and all that good stuff, and how important it is in terms of your talent. And when I'm interviewing, when I'm looking for new talent, trust is at the top of my list. I will take someone that I feel that I can trust over someone who is plug and play, knows the product, is good at the whatever, like any day. So for me, when I'm interviewing, I'm really, and listen, sometimes it's an interview, but that's why I like to always have a bench, because I'm getting to know people long before I'm hiring them. And I'm always trying to figure out, it could be something so silly as, hey, we're going to meet for a one-on-one just to kind of, catch up on Friday. And is this someone who every Friday, like the morning, like I can't trust that they're going to show up to the meeting because they're always rescheduling? Well, there you go. This is not someone who's trustworthy to me. So I'm always looking for that, even when I'm looking for new talent. It just is one of the most important things to me.
So I've been reading a book.
Don't do that.
Yeah, I was reading a book. It actually is called Leading, or it's called The Speed of Trust. It's by Stephen Covey.
Wait a minute. That better not be. Hold on. This is good. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I just started a new book, and if that's it, I'm going to fall out of my seat.
Leading at the Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey. I mean, it talks about, obviously, trust and how that impacts it, but I think that he said it best. So, I mean, even just what we talked about, he says, when trust is low, speed goes down and costs go up. When trust is high, speed goes up and costs go down. Trust is equal parts character and competence. And so let's talk about that character piece, is that it's that implicit trust of the person that has integrity, that what they say they're going to do, that they're not overstating their abilities, that can I trust why you're doing this? And I'll give you an example of where this came into play for me is that I'd worked with a person, and we were putting together a project, and somehow along the way of sending files or something like that, something got transposed with her name on it, and it got sent out to the company, and I got an email after it got sent out saying that this is wrong, and I cannot believe that this went out. Do you know what people are going to think of me? The mistake was like based on somebody else's performance. We were recording sales results and things like that. And so the numbers were transposed for this other employee of ours. But the comment back to me wasn't about the other person and having them look bad. It was because she looked bad. And when you talk about putting things like that in a box, I feel like that was a red flag to me saying, okay, fair enough. We'll fix the error, but I will remember that your ego is most important.
Right.
Everything else comes second. And it was just one of those things like, this is not, I mean, we want to produce correct things, but this is not that big of a deal. And for the level that I was attacked, we'll say, verbally.
Let me ask you now, in that situation, as time went on, because like I want to be clear, I want listeners to know, I'm not just like throwing people away after they have one box. I'm asking, as time goes on, did this person, were they consistent in their character flaws?
Yes. It's crazy. And I really fight hard because I agree with you that I don't want to make first impressions do go a long way, but there are circumstances that happen. And my posture is I want to be friends with everyone. I want to get along with everyone. I don't want to riff. But if you consistently show me who you are, then I'm forced to believe that. And that is that.
Yeah. I'm with you. And again, I put them in the boxes, and then I go and do an inventory of all your boxes. And if you have more bad boxes than good boxes, I'm like, okay, yeah, you're not my people. You're not my people.
Yeah, this whole idea though is like, do I believe you? Do I trust why you're doing this? Are you transparent with the thing? And I think that's what you're talking about, Jamie, is that whole over communication is good when you're trying to build trust. Like, I've got nothing to hide. I want to over communicate sometimes to be able to build that trust. And when you're trying to build the competence in a new team, I feel like that's really important to say, you know, I've got all these boxes checked and that I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
The other piece of that is competence that he talks about. So can you actually do the things you say you can do? Do you deliver? And really at the bottom line, do you know how to do your job? Yeah. I feel like this is another circumstance that I had. I was working with a team member of mine, and they're new, a new person. And we were working through something, and I had asked him if he was like, did you include these three things? And the answer right out of his mouth was like, yep, I did. They're included. Well, then I go back and I start looking at the numbers and they didn't add up. And so I go back and I like, we're missing something here. And then, and so then I had to go back and like, well, I guess they weren't included. And oh my gosh, like I totally want to trust you because
you're trusting their ability, right?
Like, yes. You don't want to when you say yes means yes in my book. And now yes means maybe. And again, that goes back and it slows life down.
Right. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with, and there's been plenty of times when someone asks something, and if I'm not 110% sure, my answer is, I believe so, but I'm happy to double check and get back to you. And
absolutely.
I promise you, as soon as that conversation is over, I am looking, if I need to edit it, and it's going to be a thank you for saying that because it wasn't, but it is now. I mean, that's just, don't be quick to yes, because my thought is there's a reason she's asking, right? There's a reason she's asking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm a fan of, can you check my work? Honestly, like I'm not that egotistical that I'm not afraid to say, I've done this, project, whatever. Can I get a second set of eyes on this? Do you mind checking my work?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to seem, I want to make sure that I'm competent.
Yeah.
Right. I want that portion of the trustworthiness to come through.
And here's the key word you just said, ego. And that's why, and I'm sure we're going to get into this. And listen, we love men. I always say that we love men here. We love men. But at the end of the day, these are some areas where I think that's why we tend to be, a little better in some areas, because we tend not to have ego as much as men. That's just the way God made us. And so that's where that comes into play as being an advantage that we have in a lot of roles. So there was that.
Mm-hmm. So what do you do when trust is not there? How do we what how does that show up? I also feel too a little bit is you can when we're talking competency, if people can do what they say they can do, I think that sometimes too that comes into play is people can do the thing, but also are they consistent? Can they do the thing repeatedly? Are they dropping the ball or did they so how does those things come in? If you don't trust their character, if you don't trust their competency, what do you do?
I gotta say, the consistency and the responsiveness are two things in my professional world that help really build the trust. But when something happens where that trust is compromised, there's a term that they throw around kind of in my office where they say sometimes you just have to fall on the sword. Like literally today, I went into an office and I had to just be that brutally honest and say, look, I'm embarrassed because we did this and we didn't win the job because there was something that was messed up. And I said, I'm embarrassed for me and I'm embarrassed that we did that to you. And all I can say is if you'll give me another chance, I promise you I will do everything that I did. I promise you that I'll be consistent and responsive and all the things that I did before.
Yeah.
Times 10, sometimes you just have to have I think you just have to have the humility because at the end of the day, you're all the same people, right? It's not like you're better than them. They're not better than you.
Right.
And I think that's truly it. You're the same person. You have to have the humility and you have to be able to say to the client or the person, whoever, it's a friend, a client, of whomever, your boss, whoever, and just truly say, yes, own it. And if it's a mistake, that I truly believe mistakes and problems are opportunities to prove your worth. But I think that that's sometimes what you have to do to earn that trust back is just fall on the sword and say, you know what? Sometimes you mess up. Everybody does sometimes. And here's what I'm going to do to fix it. Here's what I'm going to do to be better next time, or I will be better next time. I've definitely had that conversation as well when I've had to say, I promise you I'm going to be better. I'm going to try to be better. I think that's one of the best ways.
And that's, I'm going to go back to my example in terms of my leader. And, I shared with a mentor, hey, this is kind of what's going on. And the advice that the mentor gave me was, I think you need to just spend some time with her. Like, I think you really need to just spend some one-on-one time with her and really get to know her, and maybe even outside of, a Zoom call. And I was open to that even after the boxes was stacking up high.
The boxes are stacking up high.
But I was open to that. And so much so that I had even said, hey, why don't I fly out to, where you're at and maybe we can spend a few days in the office. And it was like, yeah, sure. And then I'd ask again. And I swear, after like 4 or 5 times, I'm like, this woman doesn't want a relationship with me. Like that. And so I'm only gonna go so far. I'm only gonna do so much. And again, I don't know that that's the right way, but in my mind, I'm just like, I tried to kind of get to know her from a different point of view. But again, it was just continue to be consistent. And I think you have to get to a point where it's okay to say, you're not my people. That's it. I'm not going to change a grown ass woman I'm not going to help her with her character flaws. And if that's who you are, I have to accept that that's who you are, and then not be fearful of just moving on and being in an environment where you just got to find your people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. And I think when you brought this topic up, Corlin, I was thinking a lot more along the lines of like how to build the trust, but I like where we're kind of going with the conversation too, of just like, because I think there's that part of it. There's the building of the trust, but then there's that whole other part of it where there's the losing of the trust, when what you're talking about, Jessica, when you've lost the trust with the person. And then when, sometimes we've lost their trust as well. Because I was thinking about situations when, like, when you have to make the tough call, you know what I mean? Like, something's happened and some people just kind of scurry away, and they don't want to face it. But then, to really show your integrity, sometimes you gotta make that phone call and, like,
Yeah.
face to face tough situations. And like you just said, Jessica, sometimes that's like probably a tough conversation to say, look, it's okay if you don't want to have this conversation with me, that's fine. We can be colleagues. And just, that's kind of a tough thing to say for some people. But
yeah,
if you have that, the integrity to be able to just recognize it and say, all right, well, that's okay. Let's continue professionally.
Yeah.
Well, and don't you think like a little bit of realization as we grow in adulting, that recognizing the need to build trust with somebody, maybe you don't identify that verbatim, but that you can sense that broken relationship or that broken connection, but it's not a fast play. It's really, it takes time, and it's a lot of like really boring stuff. Like you said, like to show up consistently, you can't show up consistently for a day and expect to have a change. It has to be
right.
Time, effort, conversation, so it's just a lot. It's hard. So, and the other point too, Jamie, is from you is that there is a difference, I think, in this whole trust conversation of how we can build trust out of the gate, start off with credibility when you meet somebody brand new. But I think more so in our walks is like how many times, I mean, there's like networking situations where you're trying to build more but like the trust factors, people that you're going to interact with long term. I feel like long-term customers, long-term employees, colleagues, reports, management, where that long-term play is really more of a effort and it's a lot more vital.
Well, and it's not that common for people to verbally tell you that, right? No one says that. You have to
that I don't trust you.
I mean, they don't. You just have to read the clues, right? I'm thinking of even personal situations. If someone's just like, I'm not in, like, I don't trust the person that you are. They're not gonna, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about someone I used to work with, and I used to hear all the things that they said behind my back. Right. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I didn't ever go out and say to that person, like, look, I know all the things you say. Basically what I did was I just didn't have a relationship with them. I never responded to them, whatever. And so it's like, typically you're going to have to just read the clues, right? When somebody doesn't trust you and it's not easy to do that. It's just, you're not going to get a response, and you're not going to get any interaction, and you're not going to get, that sale or that, yes, I'll go to coffee with you or whatever it is.
And I think about, the teams that I've ran over the years, and I think I'm pretty good with hiring good people. But again, that's because I always have my bench and my pipeline that I really get to know beforehand. But there's plenty of times that I've inherited people and I'm like, and they dig their own graves. That's like for me, that's the best part, is that I don't have to say, oh my God, this guy is he can't be trusted. I don't, he lied, all these things. And then I got to figure out how I'm going to fire him. No, they fire themselves, because that behavior always shows up. They dig their own grave. And I don't know if I just got lucky, but every time it has happened. And I'm like, I am so glad that they're gone, because it just drives me crazy to have to lead someone and deal with someone, because they always got shit that you got to pick up always, right? Because they always overpromise and underdeliver, and someone's complaining about them, and then you got to deal with that. It's just always so much baggage that comes with the character flaws of someone who cannot be trusted and does not work with integrity, that it makes my job harder. And like you said, it slows things down, and it costs us more money. And it's like, I think we should take lie detector test.
That might be an HR issue. We might need to get another say so on that. But it's super true. Like, and the guy that I was telling you about that reporting issue, what it caused me to do is in the future when I'm getting reporting, because this is somebody who I had collaborated with frequently, that it forced me to, when I ask for reports or ask for different things, to be really specific, which also takes a lot of time, because And so it put the onus back on me a little bit. Am I training well, and am I being clear with my expectations of what I'm asking?
Right.
Yeah.
But then also on the back end, making sure. So then that did take a little bit longer. And now it's the process is better, or it improved during that time. So I want to segue. So we've got a few minutes left here. We want to leave our listeners with some good takeaways. So how do we build trust? Like I mentioned, we're going to kick it old school. We are professional, like, and trust builders. We are experts in this area. Tell me your tried and true, like, what do people need to do to build trust, either out of the gate or over time? You mentioned one already, just being really consistent. What else do we need to do?
Well, I'm gonna repeat that one because that's my favorite one, but it's not, and it's, or maybe it's not consistent. So you remember how we were taught that even if it's something that we consider so insignificant, like I'm going to call you back at 6:15 to confirm that your babysitter is all set. Okay. And some people had this mindset that, well, I leave at 9:00. I'm going to call them back, before I leave. And we used to have our callbacks that would pop up at 6:15. They're popping up to remind you to call back at 6:15. That's why you set the callback for 6:15. But, I won't name any names, but there were people who would just see the little pop up and, he would just keep going. And, he was off gallivanting and he thought, I'll get to that. And then here it was 8:56. Oh, let me go run and do those callbacks. And I'm telling you, when that person didn't show up for their appointment, or when they didn't buy, or when they took too long to buy, I know for a fact that, and people would say, seriously? Yes, because let's go back to that callback that you didn't make at 6:15. And you have to do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. And all of those little stops along the way, you are building trust that you do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. And then when you ask someone for $10,000 after meeting them 2 hours ago, somehow it's a little easier for them to hand over their credit card versus when they don't trust you. Yep. That's my favorite one. Do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it.
But that example too plays out in that very specific role of ours that we had back in the day. But fast forward to when you're working on teams, and I think of when you're collaborating on a project and everyone needs to walk away with a to-do list. Okay, so I'm going to get this report done. I'm going to talk to this person. We're going to get the pricing on this and this. We're going to come back on Thursday and see what we have. Yeah. I've been in meetings before where 4 of the 5 people have got it, but that one person did not do what they're going to do. And then again, it slows down the process. And now the box that you're going in my box is that I can't depend on you for this. Not to say that that's your title forever, but for this, it definitely is a box.
To show up not having your task done, buddy. And that's who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. I piggyback on the do what you say you're going to do consistently, but also I would say, asking people, we've always said, like, listen more than you talk, right? And when you're developing a relationship with someone and you're really trying to earn their trust, I try to just ask real questions that make sense in the situation. Yeah. I get a little frustrated with, like, the fluffy questions. Everyone can say, like, how's the weather type things, but just asking those very real questions that actually make sense to the situation, and listening to the answer and remembering the answer, that builds trust in itself. It's you're invested in what they have to say, and that makes people feel important, and that makes them want to work with you and trust you. And then also just, like, mirroring a little bit of their interactions. I've noticed that some people, they'll text me, some people will email me, some people want to call, but just the very simple act of when you're asked a question or someone says, hey, can you get this over to me? the very simple act of responding in the way that they respond, maybe it's a text or an email, and just saying, hey, I don't have your answer yet, but we are working on it. I just want you to know that I'm on it.
Oh, communication.
That in itself is just the communication, the responsiveness, just someone knowing that, like, I think maybe that's the key, is just like making them feel like they're important to you. And that helps build the trust. It's that simple thing.
Yeah. And Jamie, you mentioned this earlier, but I want to note, when you make a mistake, freaking just own it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Freaking own it.
Just own it.
And and that also is a way to establish trust.
Absolutely.
Is just own it. We all make mistakes, and I think people respect. Sometimes I've owned mistakes that I told on myself because they didn't even know.
You're like, I'm tapping out on this one. That's me.
But yes, exactly. I mean, you own it. You call them when those tough situations come up, and think about problems and mistakes as an opportunity to just make it right and prove to them that you can also deal under pressure. You can also make it right. I do feel like those can be opportunities. So those are my takeaways.
Yeah. Well, this has been a great conversation, girls. Trust is where it's at, right? And just to recap a little bit, when we're talking about trust, again, we're talking character and competence. We're talking your character is your integrity and your intent. Do people believe that you mean well, and do you say the hard things with honesty and integrity? And then competence is your capability and whether or not you're consistent. Do you know your stuff, and do you show up in the same way every time? So think about those things as you are connecting with your colleagues, your team members, your upper level management, the people that report to you. Do you have trust with them, or do you need to build trust? And think about some of the things that we talked about.
Core, you just took me back. This is good stuff. And if there's sales teams and sales leaders out there, and you guys want us to actually come out and do like a whole sales training on trust, we're your girls. And they didn't know I was going to say this, but this is, we were born into this in the sales world. And I think it's really helped us over the years be the people and the leaders, and the characters that we have were built upon those core professional trainings, right?
Yeah. And I think all of that comes down to that everything moves fast when you have trust. And going back to our working at the company, those are fast decisions. And it only happens when people trust you. And so, if anything resonated with you guys today, please share and like and subscribe. You can find us on our website, leadlikeagirllab.com. Please share this episode with all of your colleagues, sharing them with all the things about how you can build trust in your day-to-day. Thanks for joining us today, and we're looking forward to another episode next week on Lead Like a Girl.
We're out.